Hey there, this is Beth, and today we're talking about water. Water deals with intuition, dreams, emotions, ebb and flow. Um, I always think there's an aspect of fertility to it because we start in the womb in this fluid state before we come out into the air and tumble around inside this tiny ocean within someone's body before we're released into the world. And so I always feel like there's this aspect of fertility that comes with water, along with dreams and intuition and love. It's considered to be a passive element. I don't know how you can call the ocean passive, right? Tsunamis, tidal waves, storms. There's nothing really passive about water at times. Water can be very, very destructive. We also see water in the Western esoteric tradition as a cleanser in many ways. It can dissolve things. It can just get rid of what you need. It will cleanse you, especially used in conjunction with some form of salt. We see it as a cleanser. It brings in the aspects of the unknown because you can't know the depths of the water. They're so dark and deep that you can't see them, whereas with air on a clear day you can look up and see everything. Water, you are limited in what you can see. So there is this mystery that comes with water and how we see it and how it comes into our lives. It's mutable. We see it very much as a mutable element. Cat hair. And when we're working in water, there's at times you can be very, very emotional when it comes to it. To go back to the initiation process, because it's a really fine way of defining how you react with the elements. And I was working with refugee resettlement at the time. And when you're working on such huge issues of people who are coming from these horrible, horrible situations, such as we had a lot of Bosnians at that point. I was working closely with our Afghani women. We had a lot of Sudanese youth that were all male. It was very interesting for me as a female and watching these Afghani females who are mostly widows with average of 5 children who aren't getting any money tossed at them. And then these Sudanese youth who are roughly youth as in younger, 16 to 25. We didn't have any underaged ones. We had 18 to 25 roughly, who got shit tons of money thrown at them. And then you have these women who have children who don't get anything, which really kind of pissed me off. But it's my own thing. But I was working with the refugees in resettlement in Salt Lake, and you begin to feel like, because you are so blessed in this first world country, that somehow your problems become nominalized, that because you have food and a house and you don't come from a war-torn country, that you have no reason to be sad or depressed, or that your problems don't mean as much. And going through water and working with that job, it really, really made me realize that yes, there may be huge issues in the world and huge injustices, and someone's problems, yes, may be bigger than yours. But your problems are still your problems, and they're still problems, and they're still valid. We tend to it's almost like we invalidate the smaller problems in life by thinking, oh, because so-and-so has such a bigger problem, mine shouldn't matter as much. But for the fact is, if you are severely depressed for whatever reason, that problem is just as valid as some huge world problem. You cannot compare suffering to one's suffering to another. It's like comparing apples and oranges. Who has it said that comparisons are odious? This is one thing. It's like, do not compare. Just because it's a huge worldwide issue does not mean that your small little problem at home of finding $5,000 to get your car fixed, pay rent, and feed yourself, or whatever it is, just it's still valid. Stop comparing and just realize that small problems are going to happen. Giant problems are going to happen in the world. It may all get mushed up in your life, or it may not. All issues are valid is one thing that I came to a conclusion really working with water, and it took a period of several years, and the started really in the initiation process of working with water and how do I look at the global issues and then the smaller issues of my life and which are more valid. And I don't think you can say one is more or less valid. They're just very different. And water can bring that kind of understanding into your life. And that's kind of why I'm talking about this, because correspondences are a dime a dozen. I don't think we need another correspondence chart. And I didn't feel called to do that. I felt called to talk and help people creating personal experiences with the elements of how to use them to understand deeper concepts within yourself, your life, and the world and the universe. And I think water, because it is so fluid and can be so mutable and flow so fast, can be very difficult to grasp because it's just once you think you got it, it's like whoosh, it's gone. Whereas air almost has more of a little stability in it, even though both air and water have some very close qualities of flow to them. Air is more of a change of logic, whereas water is more of a change of emotions and states of being, of how you feel. And understanding, for me in a way, my place within this world and how I think about certain aspects of suffering and emotions really kind of was something that water brought this process of thinking about that into my life. Because, there's some great injustices out there. And a lot of them are perpetrated against women and children. It was in the 2000s when rape was finally prosecuted as a war crime. This millennium, first time. Before that, just shit that happens in war. And I think processing those emotions and that kind of thing. And these are some of the issues that have been processed. Because, how many people do you know who have been raped? Unfortunately, I know way too many. And I think water comes into this stuff because we're not it's like there's this respect with water and the flow of water and the emotion of water. And rape is about power. If any, where would I put rape in an elephant? I almost would put it in fire. I don't think it really has unfortunately has a place in our society. So that in a way it does, how do you deal with it? How, it's something that rape is about putting power in destruction. So in a way I would put that into fire. And water can help you process these deeper issues of what's societal. Just like fire can bring in aspects of social justice, I think water needs to be in a way more absorbed into our cultures and our society, that being soft, caring, nurturing, no matter what your gender, how you identify. I think we need this element more in our culture, especially Western culture. I live in the US, so I can only speak from my experience. I cannot speak from someone else's. I can speak from what I've seen, from what I've heard. And all too often I hear not enough emotion, not enough love, not enough intuition in everyone's life, because in many ways too, water for me is a self-care too. It's that softness, that enough love of you and your life to take care of yourself and to nurture yourself and to nurture others. And it's this nurturing, I think water could be drawn back into our society and help create something different, something new, a new paradigm of how to be masculine and feminine, or however we want to define our genders, how we approach, how we identify as male and female. These boundaries are being stretched right now, and I think in a way it's very much a watery thing, and it's kind of interesting to watch as we see gender being changed and people changing thoughts and things of gender roles. And I think this falls for me into water. So, it's like the working through these, it starts like in this personal level, and many times for me it goes into these larger issues of what we need, especially with fire and water. I think for me are two that really bring out larger issues with social justice and societal norms and mores, and how can we change those, because both fire and water have cleansing aspects. Fire destroys so we can build anew. Water can wash it all away so we can replant our alluvial plain. And I think we need to redo some planning in many cultures, especially the one I live in, and see things with different paradigms and shift and use water to be mutable and flow along with the changes that are currently happening. But, it's like if you just read the correspondences and you don't experience water personally, you just stay on that surface level of any of the elements. And that's fine for putting spell work together, for manifestation, okay, all that stuff. But when you need to, but what does it really get you? If you just can rattle off a laundry list of things, if you cannot have a personal relationship with the element of water, what does that leave you? It leaves you some words, in my opinion. I would rather have the deeper aspects of, especially of water. You know, it sounds like I have this really dark, deep thing. Water has done a lot of really good things for me too, that just aren't coming through at the moment. But, I like to try and apply them. Things just for me often start within and then roll out, especially fire and water. And I'm just starting to ramble on again because that's what I do. Okay. Water is with all the elements. Take it deeper. See where it takes you. What do you think about things? How do you compare suffering? Do you compare suffering? If you do that, how can you not do that? How can you bring your self-love to you and start expanding it out to change our world into a better place? That is what water can help us do. Okay, bye. Talk to you next time.